Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hi guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James. And on my podcast, my guests and I discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. To deal with their problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So check out our podcast. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or even on Audible. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel at Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Until then, see you soon. All right. Welcome. Welcome to the show. I am Ernest James.
And I am Ervin James.
And this is the Earn Erv Podcast, where we are talking family, faith, and fatherhood, plus a little bit of foolishness sprinkled in between.
And it's our mission to have the conversations that will change our communities. It's our belief that a strong family is the foundation of a community.
All right. Make sure you guys, first of all, let me say thank you guys for tuning in to the Earn and Erv Podcast. Thank you guys. Make sure you guys listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast on all of your social media platforms, as well as your podcast listening platforms. And definitely make sure you guys subscribe to our new YouTube channel. We are now on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. Make sure you guys go there and check out the network channel. Make sure you subscribe, and when you're there, also check out our partner podcast, including the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast and the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, plus our newest podcast, which is Faith Walk Love Talk podcast, which is a Bible study podcast that airs every Tuesday. So make sure you guys go and check that out. So today, Ervin, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right, man. Just dealing with this up and down weather, some rainy days, some warm days. Just, man, ready to get out there and enjoy some sunshine. About yourself?
Well, there's another day in Chicago, right? But today I actually got up early because I thought I had to be at work at 7:00 and I didn't have to. And so I got left because I actually went all the way to work. That's a whole nother story. And didn't have to be there. So I'm like, you know what? I'm out. I'll go get my walk in because I do my walking every day. I try to get a walk in. And so I drove to the beach and actually was able to go to the beach and do my early morning walk on the beach. And man, beautiful sun glistening off the water and everything. And I was glad that I didn't have to go to work. But gotta get back to it tomorrow. So that's what it is. But right. Definitely besides that, I'm good. Everything is good, man. The family's good. So yeah, everything's good. So far, so good. To the listeners, real quick, we're going to jump to our next segment of the podcast, which is our product of the week. As you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. And our product of the week for this week is our purpose journals, as well as our purpose planners, both of those, because we believe that we need to journal to be able to keep track of where we've been and where we're going, right? Where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, even in our lives today, on purpose. And then our purpose planner is to plan out where we're going in our future. Both of those can be found on Amazon. Also, the links are down below in the links are down below in our description. Also, make sure you guys check out our ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooks by ejames. Make sure you guys go there to check out our ebooks. And if you have ever thought of starting your own podcast, get your copy of the ebook Start Your Podcast Now. Go to ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com in order to get your copy of the ebook Start Your Podcast Now. And also, just so you guys know, excuse me, coming soon on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, we're actually going to have a playlist of videos that will teach you how to start your podcast in as little as 3 steps, right? So we have your podcast up and running in no time at all. So make sure you guys go there to check out the podcast and possibly start your own, right? Again, that's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. So we're going to jump right in today. Ervin, what is our topic for today? What are we talking about?
So today we want to dive in and talk about adulthood. We're going to talk about the difference between being the age of an adult or have the maturity of an adult. So what you think, Ernest? Is it a difference?
Oh, it's definitely a difference. So at this time right now, I know that my daughter just turned 21, right? And so recently 21, not today, but she recently just turned 21. Again, my daughter is the youngest of my 5 kids for the audience that, just for those who are new to the audience. So she's the youngest of my 5. So now I got 5 young adults, right? So by age, you know what I mean? They should be not necessarily ready for the world because you're still young, right? You still don't know a lot. But the thing is, when we're talking about maturity versus age, because now they're the age of young adults, they think they're more mentally prepared as adults than they are, right? So they think they know more than they know. It's like, you don't know, you know what I'm saying? And so do I think it's a difference? It's definitely a difference between, the age of adulthood and then really understanding the mindset and the maturity of the responsibilities of things that go into adulthood.
So for me, I think, age is just a number. Maturity comes when you have the willingness to take on the responsibilities of adulthood. For me, I've always been considered an old soul, as they say. They always told me I was like an old soul because, my mind, even though I was young, I still had the mindset of, adulthood in a sense, even though I wasn't at that age yet. So I think, it's just about your mentality, where your mind is at, where your mindset at. Are you willing to step into the role of adulthood or responsibilities rather? So what do you think? What do you think the age will be that starts maturity, like on a regular basis? What do you think the age will be?
You know what? So one of the questions as a speaker, right, that I am, when I go to schools and I talk to the students at school, one of the questions that I ask them, right, is what is that age that you consider where the dividing point between young and old, right? So of course, 21, they would consider that to be young still,
Right.
So I'm like, so what is the age that's that crossover point? Because you can't be young forever. So at
Right.
some point you turn old, right? So what is that crossover point? And generally, most kids would say, most of the kids say right around 30, right? So basically you're in your 20s, you still would be considered young. But once you get to like 28, 29, definitely crossing over to the 30s, they consider that to be old, So in the framework of young versus old. But as far as mature wise, I think you're not even enough of an adult to be call yourself mature until you hit around 24, 25, right? 21, definitely not. You are just now coming into the space where you can even be called a young adult, right? 22, 23, depending on how mature you are in your season. If you start really taking adulthood seriously as a young adult, being 21, then I say when 21, 22, 23, you're kind of learning, and by 24, 25, you can kind of be mature in a sense. But that's only if you actually started taking responsibility and stuff seriously in your at 21, because a lot of times they don't. And so it's not until the 27, 28, 29 that they actually start, really saying, all right, let me kind of hone things in and make wise decisions and responsibilities, that then they become mature. So I think if you start early, as a young adult, taking it seriously at 21, then by the time you're 23, 24, definitely by 25, you'll be more, in my viewpoint, more of a mature young adult, should I say.
So what things do you think are signs that show a maturity? Like when you're starting to get into the role of maturity, what signs do you think those are?
Well, two is two things that I teach, right? My kids, whoever I'm talking to, two things that I teach, that is the two things that will make you an adult, right? Or to be considered adult, and that's respect and responsibility, right? So when you can master respect and responsibility as a young adult, that's when you know that you're becoming mature enough to call yourself an adult. Right. And so what do I mean by respect? A person who respects people, and property, right? They respect people, they respect property, they respect rules. You know what I'm saying? And so, as a lot of times we talk about respect when we talk to young people, and just some people in general, they go by the mantra that respect is earned, right? Respect is earned and not given, or given and not earned, something like that. But I
Right.
kind of look at it as
Right.
both, right?
It's
I think it's earned, right, in the sense that for your own respect you have to earn it, but I also think it's given, right? So I think it should be automatically given to others, like you respect others, and that within itself would make people begin to respect you back, because you carry yourself with a sense of respect, and so it's not necessarily, it's earned and it's given. You earn it for yourself, but you automatically give it to others, which kind of reflects back on you as far as earning it, because people will start respecting you because you carry yourself as a respectful person. And as far as responsibility, that goes without saying. Like, you cannot be a mature person if you can't handle responsibility on
right.
on every age. I mean, every age and every aspect of it, because responsibility is not just being, first of all, it's being responsible for yourself, right? And so definitely as a young adult, that's one of the first things you got to learn, to be able to take care of yourself, because you're used to your parents taking care of you, supplying the things that you need, even some of your wants. But as you begin to mature, with responsibility for yourself, first and foremost, is the number one thing. Like, can I take care of myself? Can I feed myself? Can I dress myself? Can I earn enough money to be able to take care of my wants and needs just for myself, not even talking about anyone else? But then once you get it, once you master yourself, and then get to the point where now you can begin to master it into other people. Now, can I take care of someone else? Now can I be a active participant in the community, in the things that I'm involved with, and being responsible for those, taking on some of those responsibilities that might not even be yours, but responsibilities that's the same. So those are the two things that I teach: respect and responsibility. If you master those two things, then you can call yourself a mature young adult.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you said. Only difference is I believe that at by the age of 18, if you have those levels, if you stepped into those levels, then you've already started into that maturity level. For me, I've always worked. I've always made money for myself. Once I graduated high school, I purchased all my vehicles, well, except for the first one, the little Chevette that that you got rid of after you got the Regal, the little toy car.
Hey, that Chevette kept us going for some years, man.
Yeah,
Don't hate
that's what
on
I'm
the Chevette.
saying. That's what I'm saying. So besides that car, that was the only car that was ever really given to me. Everything else, all the other vehicles of my life, I purchased. So I believe that once you start stepping into those levels, then you start giving respect and you start getting respect. You start learning how to be responsible for yourself. Taking care of the things that are yours. Oil changes, maintenance. You know, starting to buy your own things and not depending on your parents all the time. So I think, yeah, once you start really diving into those things, you start getting into that level of maturity. Because, of course, I got married at a young age too. So, I was 19 when I got married. So my maturity level had started real early. I hadn't really planned on getting married that early. Growing up, with your best friends and your best cousins, you're like, yeah, we ain't getting married till we 30 years old, 31. And we all gonna get married together. You know what I'm saying? But that time got almost cut in half for me, at getting married at 19. But it was a beautiful thing though, learning how to be responsible, learning how to, step into the shoes that, our parents want us to step into. They want us to be self-sufficient. So let me ask you, do you believe well, I ask like this. Who do you think mature faster, males or females?
Definitely females mature faster. Definitely. I think part of the reason why females mature faster is because they're kind of groomed to mature faster. So if you think about how we raise our daughters, we teach them to cook early. We start them off with baby dolls, so they're already used to caring, taking care of people. All of
Nurturing.
these things,
Yep.
right? That they're learning early from a young age. To be able to take care of things, and manage things. And then even as they get older, usually who's the babysitters? It's the older cousins or sisters.
Right.
Who's the ones that's looking out for one when parents have to go away? Who's the one cooking for the younger kid? You know what I'm saying? So all those responsibilities start real early, for our little girls. So I think that the girls definitely mature faster. As far as responsibility, which is the main point for boys, usually they don't really get like the major responsibilities till they're older, maybe like, man, 10 years old or something like that, to then where it can be like, okay, now you're old enough to understand, take the garbage out or whatever. But by then,
Right.
our daughters probably got like good 5 years on them, you know what I mean? So they definitely mature faster. And then to go back to something that you was talking about before, you mentioned about that you think that you can be mature or start being mature at a young age, like 18. And while that is true, that definitely is not the norm, right? So
Right.
me also would consider myself to have started early as far as in the mature area, but definitely not, even at 18, 19, not to the point that I would consider myself mature. You know what I mean? As far as being an adult now, looking at, thinking back on myself at that time. So I still would say, definitely in those as early as 16, when you're
Yeah.
old enough to get your first job and all of that, that's when, by 16, you should already have some kind of started some kind of responsibilities and things like that should already be started. But definitely by the time that you hit 16, now you can get your first job. So you get to learn what responsibility means outside of the home and actually in the real world, and so that 16, 17, 18, all of that while you're still going to school and working, that's still that learning period. That if you take that serious, then when you hit 21, like I said, you turn 21 and now you're considered to be a young adult, then I could say, okay, yeah, you're in the place where you can be considered mature, or in some instances is that, but definitely under 21, 18, 19, you should be learning, you should be on that path, but
Right.
I definitely wouldn't give you the title
Right.
of being a mature young adult at 18, 19.
Right.
Definitely not.
Yeah, like you said, it's definitely not the norm because you got some 22, 23, 24 year olds still, with the mindset like they still in high school. So yeah, it's definitely, and it's crazy that, like you said, I believe also that females mature faster because they're put into that role early. Little girls at a young age, they're already making dream houses and what their husband gonna look like, what their family bill is gonna be, how many kids they're gonna have, and young boys, we thinking about Transformers and Ninja Turtles and you know what I'm saying, going to play basketball, we thinking about freedom, we want to be, we don't want nothing that's locking us down. So yeah, at a young age for young boys, for the majority, yeah, they thinking about having fun, getting out, enjoying what they call life. And young girls, they didn't already start planning, a whole list of their life at a very, very young age. So yeah, I think girls, they mature a lot faster than boys. And sometimes though, even with the females, even though they start early, sometimes with some of them, when they get too much freedom, they kind of start going backwards and start thinking like the boys,
Yeah.
and they become, reckless and you know, find themselves in situations and doing crazy things. That's why, for me, I'm constantly sitting down talking to my girls all the time, trying to get them to understand, the decisions that you make, for young men, they can stay or go. For young girls, whatever situation you're in it. There's a lot of times you don't have no out, So you
Right.
got to be mindful about, the decisions you make. And I know my daughters, they always be like, well, that's like what do they call it? Um when they say the difference between boys and girls, I'm trying to think of the word that they
Double
use.
standard.
Yeah, the double standard. That's the word. They're like, oh, that's a double standard. It might be, but it's the truth. Young guys, they don't have to be tied down if they don't want to be. But females, y'all emotional, y'all attach quicker. You know what I'm saying? And y'all responsibility levels is much higher than young men. So where you think he should be right here, he ain't thinking about that. His mind is somewhere else. He want to go hang out with the boys and whatever. So I think it's also levels to responsibility. There's a low level, a middle, and then there's the high level. For me, I think the low level starts with like you mentioned before, teaching them how to take out the garbage and what I'm saying, little chores around the house and stuff like that. And then you roll into the middle, the middle gets a little bit higher, cutting grass and what I'm saying, maintenance on the house or, wherever you live, your place of residence. And then for the high level, that's when you start getting into seeing what it's like to pay bills and buy your own stuff, and managing your own money. But what you think about that?
Yeah, I think pretty much that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like really taking on the again, we talking about responsibilities, taking on the responsibilities. That's what makes you a man. That's what makes you a woman, to be able to take care of the things that's necessary for you to take care of and to do it dependably. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not just like, okay, I pay my bills this month, but then don't pay them next month. Like, no,
Right.
being able to be on point, like every month, this is what's required of me. Every day I got to show up for work, and then when I show up for work, I got to work. You know what I mean? So all of those things just being, um, really just being on it as far as the responsibility. Yeah, I think that's really the big part. And then the other part, like I said before, is the responsibility and respect and responsibilities. But I guess it's a third one too, which is your relationships, right?
Yeah.
To be able to also manage good relationships, and then that goes to not only to your family relationships and your friends and family, should I say, but then like the co-workers and the people that you meet who you may not know. You often say you can tell how good a person is by how they treat the people that they don't know,
Right.
or how they treat the people that they perceive that they don't need. You know what I mean? And so even with those, how do you manage your relationships that you have? You know, how do you act within in your relationship? So I think, yeah, I would say that those would be the three R's. Definitely respect and responsibility, and then the R, last one I would say would be relationships. How do you manage your relationships that you have, and how do you operate inside those relationships, that makes you be able in those three areas. If you can master those three areas, you can kind of, consider yourself, at least I would think you can consider yourself a mature adult at that time.
Yeah, and I think those with those three R's, I think it starts from your parents. What's your relationship with your parents? What's the respect that you give your parents? What are those things that you're doing towards your parents, the ones that brought you in? Are you helping out? Are you giving them the honor that they're due, the respect that they're due? So I think it starts with that first relationship with your parents. Whether it's you got a mother and father in the house, or it's just one parent here or one parent there, whatever the case may be. A lot of homes don't have a two-parent household. So, what is that level of respect that you have for your parents? And then that stems into the respect and the level of relationship that you have with everybody else that you deal with, whether it's in the stores or at work, like you said, with your coworkers or your bosses. You don't respect your parents. You can tell the ones who don't respect their parents. They have a hard time with authority. So it's like, yeah, you learn how to manage these things, and then you start learning how to be more mature. It's not always, about you sometimes. Sometimes you gotta step back and consider other people. So those relationships are definitely, definitely important. But I think the most important one is the one that you have with your parents.
Yeah, because it starts at home, right? And I think that's a hard thing sometimes, when we're talking about the relationships, and trying to get kids to really make that shift of things from being all about them to being about others. Because again,
Right.
when you're growing up, everything is about you. You go to your parents like, this is what I want, this is what I need, and that's, just asking and receiving. But once you start to get mature, it's like, okay, what can I give? And that's that mindset change. Like, what can I give? Okay, my parents have been giving me, all this time. What can I give now to help them out? What can I give into the household as far as responsibility and doing what I need to do, washing dishes and taking out the garbage and making things easier for my parents, to give in the household, outside of the household? What can I give to the community? Do I always have to get paid for everything? And I think that's something that's big
Right.
too. When we were younger, we were started off at an early age, doing community service, I guess you would
Yeah.
call it,
Oh,
with the church
most
and
definitely.
things like that, and going to nursing homes and all that, and having service at the nursing homes with the people that's there. So we started real early doing, what can be considered as community service. But I think that's a missing a missing, um,
Element.
area and element right now that's missing with these kids, because they're so used to everything being me, 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 that
Yeah.
they don't have the mindset of what can I do, for others? What can I bring into the world? What can I, add to my community? How can I serve? To taking that mindset of how can I be served to how can I serve? And I think that's a big, element that's missing nowadays. That's necessarily, in many cases, not taught in the home. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I think that even goes back to some of the parents, when we're talking about, young kids and begin to be in young adults, that sometimes, due to whatever, things that may have happened with the parents don't even have the mindset to be like, all right, let me teach my kids that it's not all about them. Because some parents is just like, yeah, it's all about you, which makes it hard for them to the young adults when they get older, because the parents never stop giving, right? The parents never stop serving the child, or
Right.
they don't make the child, start to make that mindset change of serving others, or even serving inside the home. Some people still, give their kids no responsibility inside the home. Like even when they
Yep.
get older, they don't have to take the garbage out. They don't have to wash dishes. They don't have to, help around the house. And then you step out into the real world and thinking that you're just going to automatically be this person that knows how to be responsible and serve. And so you get your first job, and then when the boss say, "Okay, I need you to do 1, 2, 3, and 4," you're like, "Oh my God, I'm overwhelmed." You stuck at one. Like, come on, dude, you got to be able to move and do what you need to do. But because you don't have a mindset of serving, or the experience of serving, in some kind of capacity as a person, then it makes it hard when you step into this real world and have to, serve, whether you're serving um, in the community for free, or whether you're serving on your job and expecting to be paid. But if you don't have the work ethic to be able to fulfill your responsibilities, then you pretty much going to still be in the same spot.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like you said, growing up, we did a lot of what we would consider, community service, but the difference was it was so many of us, we had fun doing it. We picked up tents, we took down tents, we did yard work, we did a lot of picking up this and that and moving stuff around. It taught us work ethic. It taught us how to be, not always looking for payment when we doing something.
Mhm.
And like you said, they're missing that very, very much in the generations now. And it makes me wonder, like when you look at some of the adults, it's like you grew up in this era, this era of learning how to do community service, learning how to give, learning how to not always look for payment, for when you do a work. Why wouldn't you put that in your children? So it kind of confuses me, like, you know, because I guess some people they look at what they learn or the way they were raised and they despise it. But the crazy part is the way you were raised got you where you are. The way you were raised helped you to be the person that you are now. So why would you deprive your children from that? And then once they get a certain age, you like, hey, now he's 21 or she's 21. Hey, wash the dishes. What? Wash dishes? And now you're going, you know what I'm saying? Now you're going back and forth and you arguing with a 21-year-old about washing dishes or taking out the garbage, or going out to cut the grass, and now you're like, oh, well, you should be doing this and that and that. But for years you didn't allow them to do that. For years you didn't put that in them. It was always whatever they want. You take them in a grocery store, they point at something, they get it. And they grew up believing that if I say I want it, I can just get it. It's just gonna be given to me, and they didn't have to do no effort, no work, no chores, no nothing. And now that they're a young adult, supposedly at the age of being young adults, now your expectations for them is here, but you didn't entrusted in them when they were down here. So it's like it's on the parents as well. What are relationships are the parents having with their children? What is their relationship that you're teaching them? What are you showing them? Are you showing them how to be young adults? Are you showing them how to be mature, or responsible? Are you showing them these things? Because if you don't show them, where are they going to learn it from? Their friend? You know what I'm saying? So it's an up and down thing. So it just depends on whatever relationships, like you said, it starts at home. What are the lessons we learning at home? What are the things we've been taught at home? Because what we learn at home is the thing that we take outside the home. Even with our friendships, if you're not being taught to have your own mind, if you're not being taught to have your own level of responsibility, then you get with certain friends and they be like, hey man, let's go jump the fence and do this and that. You like, okay. And now your parent looking at you ready to wring your neck, like, I ain't raised you up to be like that, but you didn't give them no level of responsibility and how to think for themselves. So it rolls over into, like you said, friendships and any other relationship, romance, uh girlfriend, boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't teach this young man how to respect a young girl, he's not going to respect her. If you didn't teach the young girl to demand respect for herself, she's not going to do it. She's not going to know how. So anything that sounds good or looks good, she's going to go with that. What you think?
Yeah, that's Definitely right. One of the things that I do as a speaker, again, we talk going to schools and talking, and I tell the kids, if you don't have your own mind, should I say, or a plan, right? And I would say a plan is what I'm more talking about. If you don't have a plan for your life, then you're going to fall for Les's plan, right? And say, well, who is Les? Les is the group of people that's got a plan for you if you don't have a plan for yourself. And that's
Exactly.
when you hear that, let's go do this and let's go do that, right? So if you don't have a plan or a mind of your own, when the group says, okay, let's go, jump that fence or let's go, whatever, then you're just like, all right, let's go. Because you're going with the group. You're going with Les's plan, and then I always talk about when the rubber meets the road and the circumstances and things come about from what you did, and then people want to be like, oh, I didn't do it, they did it. But if you're with them, you are them, right? You're a part of
Yeah.
them, because now when you say, like I said, you following Les's plan, now you're a part of Les. You're a part of the Let's. All right, like we're going to do this. You're a part of it. So whatever those circumstances that come out of that and consequences for those actions, you now have to answer for it because you didn't have your own mind, or your own plan for your life or the direction of even if we're not going to necessarily say life, let's just go on a day-to-day plan. You didn't
Right.
have no expectations or a plan for what you're going to do today,
Right.
with yourself. And so now you're open to whatever is being suggested and wherever you're being led by someone else who has a plan or have some area of direction, even if that direction is not in a positive place,
Right.
but because you don't have your own mind and your own plan or your own sense of direction, then you're free to follow someone else. And, who knows where that's going to end up.
Yeah, and it can end up in a whole lot of different places. Now I try to teach my kids. I tell them, guilty by association. You got to pay attention to the ones you associate yourself with, because you might not have did it, but if you sing with them, you're guilty. You're included because they can't prove that you didn't do it, and you can't prove it either. But they can prove that you was with them, and
Right.
you stuck. You SOL, you out of luck. So definitely you gotta have some kind of plan for yourself. Know what it is that you want, know what it is that you desire for yourself, and learn how to start working towards those things. And those are the levels that you start stepping into the maturity stage. And that's why I hope, this generation really get a hold to and start looking at and start taking those steps in the right direction.
Right, right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Before we get out of here, of course, I want you to have the last word, and leave us with a word of advice or encouragement. Before we get there, though, to the listeners, make sure you guys are checking us out on our websites. Our Deal to Heal Fulfill.org website is more the website where you find more about me and the work that I do as being a speaker and workshop facilitator and things like that. Also, make sure you check us out at deal2healtees.com. That's deal, the number two, healtees.com, where you can find our inspirational teas as well as our podcast merch, right? Which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. So we have our other podcast the logos on it. And also make sure you guys check out ebooks by ejames.com. Check out ebooks by ejames.com to be able to look and check out our websites. Check out our ebooks that we have available, including the Start Your Podcast Now ebook that we talked about earlier, in case you've ever thought of starting your own podcast. Also, one of the things that I'm been blessed to be a part of is an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every quarter of the year. So what is that? We talk about forgiveness, everything that has to do with forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world, and all of those things. And so we talk a lot about forgiveness. So we have these free virtual workshops where you can take it, be a part on your phone or on your laptop. All you got to do is go to forgivenessmission.com in order to register, or just go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop held by the Forgiveness Mission, and you'll be able to register there. It's 100% free, so you don't have to pay for anything, but you definitely want to be a part of it. I think that these workshops are very valuable, and they bring a lot of value and hope and healing at the same time in the space of forgiveness. I think it's very necessary that we do that. So, Ervin, again, I want you to have the last word before we get up out of here. So, that being said, yeah, I don't have nothing else to say. So give us a word, and then we're gonna get up out of here.
Well, to our listeners, those that are tapping in, have yourself a plan. Work on your maturity level, work on your responsibility, but definitely have yourself a plan, because if you don't have yourself a plan, less plan is always ready to come in and take over. So don't find yourself, in a situation that you can't get out of. Always be mindful of yourself, respect your parents, and respect those that are around you, and you'll be all right.
All right. And we can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Earn Erv Podcast. Until next time, you guys be blessed.
Be blessed.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion Podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions Podcast with your host, Ernest James.